Hi everyone, and thanks for being with me. This is rather an odd presentation or video this time, and that's because I'm going to talk about Taylor Swift. Now, Taylor Swift has entered Australia last week and has performed, I think, in Sydney to start with and then Melbourne, maybe vice versa, who knows. However, she is a phenomenon worth talking about. Now, to be honest, I didn't know who Taylor Swift was until about a couple of years ago when it was mentioned that she was, in fact, influential in increasing the number of young voters in the United States. I didn't understand it then, didn't understand her influence, and didn't understand it fully until just recently, particularly since she's entered Australia and the Swift mania, it seems, going everywhere. And the conclusion I've arrived at, as an old fart who probably still thinks that the Beatles are the bee's knees and Mick Jagger is amazing that he's still alive, and that, you know, in my time it was The Who, and it was a whole host of these old farts, who are now old farts, who influenced my life. And I was wondering about the impact that Taylor Swift particularly has had on young people, just like some of those people from the past had on my life. And so I took myself on this journey, listening to her songs, watching her performances, and trying to make up my own mind as to who she was, rather than any external influence based on her general popularity. As a result of all of that, I've come to realise, particularly after watching the Netflix documentary on her, that she is the most amazing young woman. And to be frank, I'm a fan. I can't say I'm a fan of her music style. I've never been into country music anyway, to any large extent, and I certainly haven't followed her musical career over the last couple of decades. But what I do admire is a woman who talks about, through her music, the things that have impacted her life. The way she reflects on the role that she plays, the responsibility she has as an influencer, particularly among young people. She has had a number of struggles herself in terms of her own weight control. She didn't say she was bulimic, but she certainly was mindful of the commentaries that were made about whether she has a fat tummy or whatever it was that people were critical of, and particularly at a time in her life where she was criticised for simply being Taylor Swift. And there was this moment in particular that some of you may know of, where Kanye West, at a presentation where she won the prize, got up on stage, ripped the microphone out of her hand and said Beyonce performed the best video that there has ever been performed, and denigrated Taylor Swift. And Taylor talks about that in her in the documentary. And it's quite a revelation, because at this particular point, this young woman was confronted for the first time the fact that there may be people out there who disagreed with what she had to do. And she took a year off in order to reflect on all of that, and came back later, stronger, more powerful, and more determined to tell her story through her music than she ever was before. There's a lot to admire about her. It's because I think she's a wonderful role model for young people. She talks about her story and how her life has been impacted by not only the relationships that she's had, but by the way the media have portrayed her and the way she responds to her fans. So even though I will never get tickets to go and see her, I don't think, if I had the opportunity, I certainly would. But I guess what I really wanted to say was that an old person, now 72 in fact, to understand and appreciate the impact that a young person today can have in such a positive way, I think it says a lot about Taylor Swift, and says a lot about the way that we should acknowledge what young people do in order to make this world a better world. And she certainly, through her music, has done that. Now, she took on the establishment. I wouldn't say that she's won, but she certainly has taken on the establishment, particularly around Donald Trump, and she's certainly focused on what is right and what is just. And she made that decision after a number of conflicts in terms of how she should, as a popular figure, choose to engage with the community, with her community, and whether she had the right to be able to do that. And at one particular point, she didn't believe that she did. Later on, though, she realised when she saw the type of people that were being nominated by the Republican Party, she decided that it was time for her to be able to say what she needed to say and acknowledging that there would be consequences. And she went through a struggle before she sent off that Instagram post or whatever it was that encouraged young people to vote. And she started to talk about her opposition to a particular Republican in Tennessee. And she by that, she made a decision that this was what she needed to do, because her whole career up until that point had been talking about her life and through her music, and how she'd responded to certain instances where she felt sad, rejected, even hated and disliked. And she decided that it was about time to be able to reflect on where she sat politically, to be able to influence change that she believed was for the better. So, in conclusion, I am a fan. I like her greatly, and I particularly like watching some of the videos and the choreography and the stagecraft and the way the whole stuff is put together. And in the documentary, do have a chance, if you can watch it. I think it's also available on YouTube. But if you watch this video, you'll see the dedication she has to her music and to telling the story. So I've enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy it as well if you get to watch the documentary. And all of those Swifties out there that go to her concerts, I think it's really important to listen to her lyrics because she has a story worth telling. Thanks everybody for being with me. Take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.